My ex-husband walked into my auto repair shop and demanded to see the owner. He wanted to complain. He wanted to yell. He wanted someone fired. He had no idea the owner was me. My name is Olivia Brooks, and this is the story of how the man who destroyed my life ended up begging me for help. 5 years ago, I was a different person. I was a wife, a supporter, the woman standing behind her husband's brilliant career. Mark was going to be something big, he told me constantly. He was destined for greatness. And I believed him. I believed everything. We lived in Florida in a modest house that I kept spotless. I took care of our son. I made dinners. I attended his work functions and smiled at his colleagues and nodded when he talked about his ambitious plans. Mark was arrogant. Looking back, I can see that now. But at the time, I thought it was confidence. He'd walk into a room like he owned it. He'd talk over people, dismiss their opinions, always certain he was the smartest person there. "Olivia, you don't understand business," he'd say when I tried to give advice. "Just focus on keeping the house running. That's your job." My job. Like I was an employee, not a partner. But I told myself it was fine. This was marriage. This was supporting your spouse. This was love. Until the day I discovered it wasn't. I found out about the affair the way people always seem to find out, accidentally. A text message that popped up on his phone while he was in the shower, from my sister. My sister. Her name was Rachel, 2 years younger than me. We'd grown up sharing a bedroom, sharing clothes, sharing secrets. She was my maid of honor at my wedding. She held my hand when I gave birth to my son. And for 5 years, she'd been sleeping with my husband. 5 years. I stood there in our bedroom, holding his phone, reading messages that made me physically sick. The casual intimacy, the inside jokes, the planning. "When are you going to leave her?" Rachel had written. "I'm tired of waiting." When Mark got out of the shower, I was sitting on the bed with his phone in my lap. "Olivia, what are you—" "5 years," I said. My voice sounded strange, distant, like it belonged to someone else. "You've been with my sister for 5 years." He didn't deny it. That's what shocked me most. No excuses, no apologies, just this look of mild annoyance, like I'd discovered something inconvenient but not particularly important. "I was going to tell you," he said. "When? When were you going to tell me?" "When the timing was right." The timing was right, like this was a business decision, a strategic move. "I want a divorce," I said. "Fine, but don't think you're getting the house. I bought this house with my career prospects. You contributed nothing." That's when I knew. This man I'd loved, supported, believed in, he'd never seen me as an equal. I was furniture, a convenient accessory to his life. And my sister? She texted me an hour after Mark left. Not an apology, just, "You were never right for him anyway. I did you a favor." A favor. I could have fought. I could have dragged them both through court, made it ugly, made them pay. But you know what I realized? Fighting them meant staying connected to them. It meant years of lawyers and arguments and reliving the betrayal over and over. I didn't want that. I wanted something better. I wanted revenge, yes, but not the kind that happens in a courtroom. The kind that happens when you build something so successful, so undeniable, that they can't help but see what they lost. So I divorced Mark quickly, took what little I was entitled to, got custody of our son, and I made a decision that changed everything. I was going to stop being the woman behind someone else's success. I was going to build my own. But here's what nobody knew about me. Not even Mark during all those years of marriage. I loved cars. Always had. When I was a kid, I'd spend hours in my dad's garage, watching him work on engines. He'd explain how carburetors worked, how to diagnose a misfire, how to listen to an engine and hear what it was trying to tell you. "You've got the touch, Livy," he'd say. "Natural mechanic's instinct." But when I met Mark, I put that away. He thought it was unfeminine. He wanted a wife who wore dresses and hosted dinner parties, not one with grease under her fingernails. So I became what he wanted. But now Now I was free to become who I actually was. I enrolled in automotive technology classes at the community college. During the day, I worked 3 jobs: waitressing, cleaning houses, whatever paid. At night, I studied. My son would do his homework while I studied mine, both of us at the kitchen table, building our futures. It was hard. God, it was hard. Some days I was so exhausted I could barely see straight. But every time I wanted to quit, I'd think about Mark's face when he said I contributed nothing, and I'd keep going. I sold my wedding ring, not for sentimental reasons. I just needed the money. That ring represented a lie anyway. I took the cash and put it towards certification courses, ASE certifications, manufacturer training programs. I learned everything. 2 years in, I got a job at a repair shop. Started as a lube tech, the lowest position, changing oil and rotating tires. But I watched everything, learned from every mechanic, asked questions constantly. The owner, an older guy named Frank, saw something in me. "You're good at this," he said one day. "Really good. You ever think about opening your own place?" "With what money?" I laughed. "With a business plan and a bank loan. You'd be surprised what's possible when you know what you're doing." He helped me write that business plan, showed me how to project costs, estimate revenue, plan for growth. And when I walked into that bank to apply for a small business loan, I wasn't the lost, betrayed wife anymore. I was Olivia Brooks, certified master mechanic with 3 years of experience and a solid business plan. They approved the loan. I found a location, a former gas station in a high-traffic area that had been sitting empty for 2 years. The rent was cheap because it needed work. Perfect. I could do the work myself. I named it Sunshine State Auto. Opening day, I had exactly 2 employees, both young guys I'd trained with who believed in my vision. We had 5 bays, basic equipment, and a prayer that customers would actually show up. They did. Word spread fast in our community. There's this woman mechanic who actually explains what's wrong with your car instead of just charging you. She's honest. She stands behind her work. Within 6 months, we were booked solid. Within a year, I hired 3 more mechanics. Within 3 years, I had 8 employees and a waiting list. Sunshine State Auto became known for something rare in the auto repair industry: integrity. We didn't upsell. We didn't lie. We treated customers with respect and fixed their cars right the first time. And me? I wasn't just the owner. I was the master mechanic, the one everyone requested. I had certifications covering the walls of my office. I'd earned every single one. My son was proud of me. That meant more than anything. "Mom, you're like a superhero," he said once. "You fix things that are broken." "That's the job, kiddo." "No, I mean you fix everything, even yourself." Smart kid. By year 5, Sunshine State Auto was one of the most respected shops in the region. We had corporate accounts, fleet contracts, a reputation that brought customers from 3 counties over. I had built an empire. Small, maybe, but mine, completely mine. And the best part? Nobody from my old life knew. I'd moved to a different part of Florida, changed my routines. My old friends from the Mark era had all disappeared anyway. Most of them had been his friends, not mine. I was free, successful, happy. And then, one ordinary Tuesday morning, my phone rang. "Sunshine State Auto, this is Olivia." "Yeah, I need a tow truck immediately," a voice said. Male, arrogant, impatient. "My car broke down on Route 27. It's a Mercedes, black. I need it towed to a proper shop, not some backwater garage." "Sir, we are a proper shop. What's your location?" He gave it to me, still complaining about the inconvenience, about how his day was ruined, about how this better not take long. I dispatched our tow truck. Just another customer, just another car to fix. 20 minutes later, my driver called. "Boss, you're not going to believe what we're towing in." "What?" "Pristine black Mercedes S-Class. This thing is immaculate. Owner must have money." "Great, bring it in. I'll take a look." The tow truck arrived. I was in Bay 3 working on a Ford F-150, and I heard the distinctive sound of the truck backing up, lowering the Mercedes onto our lot. I wiped my hands and walked over to assess the new arrival. And that's when I saw him, Mark, getting out of an Uber, walking toward my shop with that same arrogant stride, wearing an expensive suit, looking exactly like the man who'd told me I contributed nothing. He hadn't seen me yet. I stood there, partially hidden by the tow truck, just watching him. He walked up to my receptionist's window, and I could hear every word. "I'm the owner of that Mercedes. I need it fixed immediately, and I want your best mechanic on it, not some amateur." My receptionist, Jenny, kept her composure. "Sir, all our mechanics are highly qualified. We'll have someone assess your vehicle right away." "I want to speak to the owner. This shop looks like a dump. I should have had it towed somewhere reputable." That's when Jenny glanced at me. I could see the question in her eyes. "Want me to tell him?" I shook my head slightly. "No, not yet." I walked back into my office, took off my work gloves, grabbed my clipboard, and put on my manager's jacket, the one with Olivia Brooks, owner and master mechanic, embroidered on the chest. Then I walked out to meet my ex-husband, who had no idea his entire day was about to get much, much worse. I've thought a lot about this moment, the moment when someone from your past, someone who hurt you, dismissed you, destroyed you, sees who you've become. I walked out of my office and across the shop floor. My work boots made solid sounds on the concrete. Mark was still at the reception window, still complaining, still being the same arrogant man he'd always been. Jenny saw me coming and stepped back slightly, giving me space. "Sir," I said, my voice calm and professional, "I'm the owner. How can I help you?" Mark turned around, and I watched his face go through several expressions in the span of 3 seconds. Confusion, recognition, shock, then something like panic. "Olivia?" "Hello, Mark." His mouth opened and closed like a fish. "What are you— This is your shop?" "It is." "But you were a housewife. You didn't know anything about cars." "Turns out I knew a lot. I just never had the chance to use it while I was busy supporting your career." He looked around the shop, really looked this time, at the professional signage, the clean bays, the expensive diagnostic equipment, the team of mechanics working efficiently on various vehicles. You own all this?" "Built it from nothing. Well, not nothing. I sold my wedding ring for the initial capital. Best investment that ring ever made." I could see him calculating, trying to figure out how this had happened, how the woman he'd dismissed had built something he couldn't comprehend. "I need my car fixed," he said finally, trying to regain some control. "The transmission is acting up. How long will it take?" I walked over to his Mercedes. Beautiful car. Probably cost $80,000. I ran my hand along the hood, then popped it open and leaned in to look at the engine. Mark followed me. "Well? Can you fix it or not?" I spent 5 minutes doing a preliminary diagnostic, checked the transmission fluid, listened to the engine, ran through the obvious problems. Then I straightened up and looked at him. "Your transmission is failing. Not just acting up, failing. You need a full rebuild, possibly a replacement." "How long?" "At least a week, maybe 2, depending on parts availability." His face went red. "A week? I need my car. I have meetings, obligations." "Then you should have maintained it better. When was the last time you had the transmission fluid changed?" "I don't know. The dealership handles that." Apparently not well enough. This kind of failure doesn't happen overnight. You've been ignoring warning signs for months. "Fine, just fix it and do it fast." I pulled out my clipboard and started writing up the estimate. When I finished calculating, I showed him the number. His eyes bulged. $7,000? That's for a rebuild. If we need a full replacement, it could be $12,000, plus labor. "That's insane! You're overcharging because of our history." "Actually, that's below market rate. You're welcome to get a second opinion, but you'll need a tow truck to take it somewhere else, and that's another $200. Mark's jaw clenched. I could see him wrestling with the situation. He needed his car. He knew I was his best option, but his pride was screaming at him. "This is extortion," he muttered. No, this is business, something you claim to understand better than me. People don't realize how satisfying silence can be. The silence of watching someone who wronged you realize they need you now, that they're powerless, that the tables have completely turned. We require a 50% deposit before we start work, I said. That's $3,500, cash or card. You can't be serious. Completely serious. It's policy. We've had too many people abandon expensive repairs when they see the final bill. I'm not going to abandon my car. Then the deposit shouldn't be a problem. He pulled out his wallet, hands shaking slightly with anger or humiliation, I couldn't tell which, maybe both. He handed over his credit card. Fine, but I want daily updates on the progress. Of course, we treat all our customers with respect and transparency. It's what makes us successful. That barb landed. I saw it in his eyes. Jenny processed his payment while I wrote up the work order. Mark stood there shifting his weight, clearly wanting to say something, but not knowing what. "How's Rachel?" I asked casually, not looking up from my paperwork. He flinched. "We're not together anymore." "Oh? What happened to your great love story?" "It didn't work out." "Shame. You destroyed a marriage for it. Must have been quite a disappointment when it fizzled." "Olivia. Ms. Brooks, actually. We're not on a first-name basis anymore. You're a customer, I'm the owner. Let's keep it professional." I finished the paperwork and handed him a copy. "We'll call you with updates. Is this number still good?" He looked at his phone number on the form and nodded. "Great. You can go. We'll be in touch." "That's it? You're just going to dismiss me?" "I have 4 other cars waiting for my attention. Yes, you're dismissed." He stood there for another moment, and I could see something happening behind his eyes. Some kind of realization. Maybe regret. Maybe just wounded pride. "You've changed," he said. "I had to. You destroyed the person I was, so I built someone better." "I'm sorry. For what it's worth, I'm sorry." "It's worth nothing. Your apology doesn't fix 5 years of betrayal. It doesn't give me back the time I wasted believing in you. It's just words, Mark, and words are cheap." "What about your son? Is he okay?" "He's perfect. Straight-A student, polite, kind, everything you're not. And he doesn't ask about you anymore, so don't pretend you care now." That hit him harder than anything else I'd said. I could see it in his face. "I should have been better," he said quietly. "Yes, you should have, but you weren't, and now I am. Funny how that works." Mark left in his Uber, and I watched him go. Jenny came over once he was gone. "Boss, that was intense. Was that really your ex-husband?" "Unfortunately. You handled that like an absolute professional." "That's because I am one, unlike him." I went back to work on the F-150, but my hands were shaking. Not from sadness or anger, from adrenaline, from the rush of finally, after 5 years, showing Mark exactly what he'd lost. That evening, after the shop closed, I sat in my office and thought about the day, about Mark's face when he recognized me, about his expensive car that he couldn't fix himself, about how he'd needed me. My son called during dinner. He was at a friend's house. "Hey, Mom, how was work?" "Interesting. Fixed a Mercedes today." "Cool. Expensive car?" "Very." "Did the owner tip you?" I laughed. "No, sweetheart, but that's okay. Some payments aren't about money." After we hung up, I looked around my office, at my certifications on the wall, at the photos of my son, at the business license with my name on it, Olivia Brooks, owner. I'd done this, built this, created something from nothing, while Mark had probably coasted on his arrogance and eventually failed. Otherwise, why would his relationship with Rachel have ended? My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "I know I don't deserve your kindness, but please take care of my car. It's all I have left. Mark." I stared at that text for a long time. It's all I have left. Good. I deleted the message and went home to my son, my success, and my peace. Mark could wait for his car like any other customer, because that's all he was now, just another customer. And I was the boss. You'd think revenge would feel explosive, dramatic, like something out of a movie where the hero delivers a devastating speech and walks away while everything burns behind them. But real revenge? It's quieter. It's professional. It's watching someone squirm while you maintain perfect composure. That's what the next week was. Mark called every single day, sometimes twice a day. Any update on my car? We're still waiting on parts, Mr. Mark. When will they arrive? The supplier said 3 to 5 business days. It's been 2. Can't you expedite it? For an additional fee, yes. Silence on the other end. Then, how much? $300 for rush shipping. More silence. He was calculating whether his pride was worth $300. Fine, do it. I'll need that payment before I place the order. Every interaction was like this. Him calling, me being perfectly professional and perfectly unhelpful in speeding anything up beyond what was reasonable. On day 3, he showed up at the shop in person. I was under a Subaru, replacing a head gasket, when Jenny came to get me. "Boss, your ex is here again. Wants to talk to you." I rolled out from under the car, wiped my hands, and walked to the front. Mark was pacing in the waiting area like a caged animal. "Mr. Mark, what can I do for you?" "I need to see my car. I want to know you're actually working on it." "You don't trust me?" I want to see it." "Fine, follow me." I led him into the shop. His Mercedes was up on a lift in Bay 2. The transmission was partially disassembled, parts laid out methodically on a rolling cart. "See, we're working on it." He stared at the exposed transmission. "Is it really that bad?" "Worse, actually. We found additional damage once we got inside. The torque converter is shot. That's another $1,500. His face went pale. "You said $7,000. I said $7,000 for a standard rebuild. This isn't standard anymore. The damage is extensive." "This is your fault?" "Yes, it is. You neglected this car, ignored warning signs, pushed it beyond its limits." "Sound familiar?" He looked at me sharply. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Whatever you want it to mean. Do you want us to fix the torque converter or not?" "Do I have a choice?" "You always have choices, Mark. You can approve the additional work or you can take your car somewhere else. But if you choose the latter, you'll pay for the work we've already done, plus reassembly, plus towing." "How much would that be?" "About $4,000, and then you get to start over somewhere else and explain why your transmission is in pieces." I watched him do the math, watched him realize he was trapped. "Fine, fix everything." "I'll need approval in writing and the additional deposit." "Of course you do." I printed out an amended work order. He signed it with angry, jagged strokes. Then he pulled out his credit card again. $750, I said, half of the additional work. He paid without a word. As he was leaving, he stopped at the door. "You're enjoying this." "Enjoying what?" "Having power over me, getting your revenge." "I'm not getting revenge, Mark. I'm running a business. If you want to interpret professional service as revenge, that says more about your guilty conscience than my intentions." "You've become cold." "No, I've become strong. There's a difference." He left, and I went back to work. But he was right about one thing. I was enjoying it. Not in a mean-spirited way, in a "this is what justice feels like" way. Every time Mark called and had to wait for me to return his call. Every time he had to ask me for updates. Every time he handed over his credit card for another payment. Each moment was a tiny reversal of the power dynamic that had defined our marriage. Back then, he held all the power. He made the decisions. He controlled the money. He told me what I was worth. Now I held something he needed, and he had to be polite, had to be patient, had to treat me with respect, or risk having his car sit in my shop even longer. On day 5, my lead mechanic Carlos came into my office. "Boss, the Mercedes is ready for testing. Want to take a look?" "Let's see it." We walked out to Bay 2. The transmission was back together, reinstalled in the car. Carlos had done beautiful work. It looked factory new. "Fire it up," I said. Carlos turned the key. The engine roared to life, smooth and powerful. He shifted through the gears. Perfect. No grinding, no hesitation. The transmission was flawless. "Nice work, Carlos." Thanks, boss. This was a good one. Challenging. The owner really let this thing go to hell. Some people don't appreciate what they have until it's broken. True that. I called Mark. Your car is ready. Finally, I'll be there in 20 minutes. Great. Your final balance is $2,800. I thought I paid the deposit. You paid 50%. The balance is due on pickup. That's standard policy. Fine, whatever. I'll be there soon. He arrived exactly 20 minutes later, pulled up in an Uber, practically ran into the shop. Where's my car? Bay 2. I'll walk you through everything we did. I showed him the detailed work order. Every part replaced, every hour of labor, every diagnostic test run. It was all documented with photos and technical notes. This is very thorough, he admitted. We stand behind our work. You're getting a 2-year warranty on all parts and labor. A warranty? Yes, if anything goes wrong with the transmission in the next 2 years, we'll fix it free of charge. That's how confident we are in our work. For the first time all week, he looked genuinely impressed. That's really good. It's called professionalism. It's what happens when you take pride in your work. He paid the balance, and I handed him his keys. Your car is better than new now. Treat it better this time. I will. Thank you, Olivia. Ms. Brooks. You're welcome. He started to walk away, then stopped. Can I ask you something? What? Why didn't you take me to the cleaners in the divorce? You could have fought for more, made my life hell, but you just left. I thought about how to answer that, about whether he deserved the truth. Because making your life hell would have kept you in my life. I wanted you gone, completely gone. Fighting you would have meant seeing you, thinking about you, being connected to you for years. And now? Now you're just another customer who needed his car fixed. That's all you are to me. He nodded slowly. I deserved that. Yes, you did. Mark got in his Mercedes, started it up, and sat there for a moment listening to the smooth purr of the engine. Then he drove away. And I watched him go, feeling nothing. No anger, no sadness, no satisfaction. Just nothing. He was gone, again, and I could go back to my life. Jenny came over after he left. You okay, boss? I'm perfect. Let's close up for the day. That evening, I picked up my son from school. He was excited about something. Mom, guess what? I got an A on my science project. That's amazing, sweetheart. What was the project? It was about mechanical advantage, levers and pulleys and stuff. I used your shop as my inspiration. My heart swelled. Really? Yeah, I explained how car jacks work and how your lift system uses hydraulics. Mrs. Peterson said it was the most detailed project she'd ever seen. I'm so proud of you. I learned from the best. We went to dinner at his favorite restaurant. Nothing fancy, just a local diner with good burgers. While we ate, he talked about his friends, his classes, his plans for summer. And I realized something important. Mark had tried to take everything from me. My marriage, my sister, my sense of worth. He'd wanted to leave me with nothing. But he'd failed. Because I had this, my son, my business, my strength. And he had a fixed transmission and a bill for $8,500. I knew which one of us had won. 2 weeks after Mark picked up his Mercedes, life returned to normal. The shop was busy as always. Cars came in broken, left fixed. Customers came in worried, left satisfied. But I couldn't quite shake the feeling that something had shifted. Not in a bad way, more like a chapter closing. Then Rachel called. I almost didn't answer. The number was familiar, stored in my phone under Sister, even though I hadn't spoken to her in 5 years. My thumb hovered over the decline button. But curiosity won. Hello? Olivia, it's Rachel. Her voice sounded smaller than I remembered, less confident, almost fragile. I know who it is. Can we talk, please? We are talking. I mean in person. I need to see you. Every instinct told me to say no, to hang up, to keep this woman out of my life the way I'd kept Mark out, completely, permanently. But part of me wanted to know. Why now? Why call after 5 years of silence? Fine, One conversation. My shop. Tomorrow at 6 after we close." "Thank you. I'll be there." She hung up before I could change my mind. The next day dragged. I kept checking the clock, wondering if Rachel would actually show, wondering what she possibly had to say after 5 years of betrayal. At 6 p.m., I sent my team home, locked the front door, sat in my office, and waited. At 6:15, her car pulled into the parking lot. A Honda Civic, older model, not the luxury car she used to drive when she was with Mark. She walked to the door, and I let her in. Rachel looked different, tired. The expensive highlights were gone, replaced by her natural brown hair, graying at the temples. She wore jeans and a simple blouse. No designer labels, no jewelry. She looked like someone who'd fallen from a great height and was still trying to find solid ground. "Thank you for seeing me," she said. "You have 15 minutes." We sat in my office. The uncomfortable silence stretched between us like barbed wire. "Mark told me he saw you," she finally said, "that his car broke down and you fixed it. He said you own this whole place." "I do. It's impressive. Really impressive." "Is that what you came here to say? That I'm impressive?" "No. I came to apologize." I laughed, actually laughed. 5 years later, what's the point? Because I need to say it, because I've been carrying this guilt for 5 years and it's destroying me, because you deserved better than what we did to you. I deserved better than a cheating husband and a backstabbing sister. Yeah, I did. We were horrible. I was horrible. I justified it by telling myself you and Mark weren't really happy, that I was doing everyone a favor. But that was a lie. "Why did you do it?" She looked down at her hands. "Because I was jealous. Of you. Of your life. You had a husband, a son, a family. I had nothing. And Mark, he made me feel special, important. He said things about you, about your marriage, and I believed him because I wanted to." "What things?" "That you were cold, that you didn't understand him, that you held him back from his potential." She looked up at me. "All lies. I see that now. He said the same things about me after we got together." "So you broke up?" "He left me for someone else, a woman from his work, younger, prettier, wealthier, told me I'd become boring, that I was holding him back." The irony was almost poetic. "Karma's real," I said. "I deserved it. I deserved all of it. Olivia, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even expect you to understand. I just needed you to know that I'm sorry, truly, deeply sorry." I studied my sister, this woman who'd shared my childhood, who'd braided my hair before school, who'd cried with me when our dad died, and who'd betrayed me in the worst possible way. "Do you know what the hardest part was?" I asked. "Not the marriage ending, not Mark's betrayal. It was losing you. You were my sister, my best friend, and you threw that away for a man who wasn't worth either of our time." "I know. I built all of this," I gestured around the office, "without you, without Mark, without anyone from that life. I did it alone, and I'm proud of that. But sometimes I wonder what it would have been like to share this success with my sister, to call you when I got my first big contract, to celebrate with you when I hired my 10th employee." Rachel's eyes filled with tears. "I wonder that too. But we can't go back. You destroyed that relationship, and I won't pretend it didn't happen just because you feel guilty now. I don't expect you to. I just wanted you to know that I see what I did. I own it. And if I could go back and make a different choice, I would. But you can't." "No, I can't." We sat in silence for another moment. Then I stood up. "Your 15 minutes is up." Rachel stood too. She looked like she wanted to hug me, but thought better of it. "For what it's worth," she said at the door, "I'm proud of you. You became someone amazing, someone I wish I could have been." "You could have been. You chose not to." She nodded and left. I watched her drive away in her modest Honda, and I felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no urge to forgive or reconcile, just nothing. She was a stranger now, someone I used to know, someone who'd hurt me but no longer had the power to touch my life. I locked up the shop and drove home. My son was waiting with homework questions and stories about his day. We made dinner together, spaghetti, his favorite. We laughed, we talked, we lived our life. And Rachel, like Mark, became just another person from my past, someone who'd tried to break me and failed. Later that night, after my son was asleep, I sat on my back porch with a glass of wine. The Florida night was warm, filled with the sound of crickets and distant traffic. My phone buzzed. A review notification. Someone had left a 5-star review for Sunshine State Auto. I opened it. Honest, professional, and the owner genuinely cares about doing quality work. Had a major transmission repair done here. Expensive, but worth every penny. The transparency and warranty gave me complete confidence. Highly recommend. The reviewer's name was listed as Mark E. I stared at that review for a long time. Then I smiled, because that's what real revenge looks like. Not destruction, not cruelty, not bringing someone down to your level, but rising so far above them that even they have to acknowledge what you've become. I finished my wine and went to bed, sleeping better than I had in years. 3 months after Mark's review, business was booming. That 5-star rating had actually brought in new customers. People would mention it. I saw a review from someone whose transmission you rebuilt, said you were honest and professional. The irony never got old. My life had settled into a comfortable rhythm. Work, my son, the occasional date with someone who appreciated that I could diagnose a failing catalytic converter on a first date. That's a very specific type of person, but they exist. Then one afternoon, Frank, the old shop owner who'd mentored me years ago, stopped by. "Olivia! Place looks great. You've really built something here." "Thanks to you. You taught me everything. I taught you mechanics. You taught yourself business. There's a difference." He looked around appreciatively. "Actually, that's why I'm here. I have a proposition for you." We sat in my office and Frank laid it out. "I'm retiring, for real this time, and I want to sell my shop. But I don't want to sell it to some chain that'll gut it and turn it into another impersonal service center. I want to sell it to someone who understands what we do, someone with integrity." "Frank, I'm flattered, but I can't afford—" "Hear me out. I'm not looking for market value. I'm looking for legacy value. I'll sell you the shop, the property, all the equipment, for what you can reasonably afford. We'll work out a payment plan. Hell, I'll even finance it myself if banks won't." "Why me?" "Because you remind me of myself 30 years ago. Passionate, honest, willing to do whatever it takes. And because I know you'll take care of my customers. That matters more than money." I thought about it. 2 shops, double the capacity, more employees, more reach. It was a huge risk, a huge responsibility. "Let me see the books," I said. We spent 2 weeks reviewing everything. Frank's shop was profitable, had a loyal customer base, and was in a great location on the other side of town. The numbers made sense. More importantly, the opportunity made sense. I talked to my son about it over dinner. He was 14 now, old enough to understand what a big decision this was. "Mom, you should do it," he said without hesitation. "It's a lot of money, a lot of risk. You've never been afraid of risk. You left Dad with nothing and built all this. You can do it again. You're pretty smart for 14. I learned from the best." I made the deal with Frank. Sunshine State Auto expanded to 2 locations. I promoted Carlos to manager of the original shop and hired a new master mechanic for Frank's location, now renamed Sunshine State Auto West. The first 6 months were brutal. I was working 70-hour weeks, splitting time between both shops, training new staff, dealing with 2 sets of everything. But we made it work. By the end of the first year, both locations were profitable. We'd built a reputation across the entire region. People would drive an hour out of their way to bring us their cars because they knew we'd be honest. That's when the local news called. "Ms. Brooks, we'd like to do a story on your business. Female entrepreneur builds successful auto repair empire." It's the kind of feel-good story our viewers love. I almost said no. Remember, peacocks attract predators. Visibility brings complications. But then I thought about all the women who might be watching. Women in bad marriages. women who felt trapped, women who didn't think they could build something from nothing. Maybe my story could help someone. Okay, let's do it. The news crew came out, filmed both shops, interviewed me and my staff. They asked about my background. I told them the truth. Not all of it. Some things stay private, but the important parts. I was a housewife. My marriage ended badly. I was left with nothing but determination. So I went back to school, learned a trade, and built a business based on integrity and hard work. The reporter, a woman in her 30s, looked at me with something like awe. That's incredible. What would you say to other women in difficult situations? I'd say you're stronger than you think. The person who made you feel small, who told you that you couldn't do it, who limited your potential, they were wrong. You can rebuild. You can succeed. It won't be easy, but it's possible. The segment aired on a Tuesday evening. By Wednesday morning, my phone was ringing off the hook. Women calling to say thank you, to say they were inspired, to say they'd been in similar situations and my story gave them hope. One call stood out. Ms. Brooks, my name is Jennifer. I saw your story last night. I'm in the process of leaving my husband. He's been controlling, financially abusive. I don't have a degree. I don't have skills. I don't know what to do. Jennifer, first, you're brave for leaving. That's the hardest step. Second, you do have skills. You just haven't discovered them yet. What do you like to do? What interests you? We talked for 20 minutes. I gave her resources, contacts, advice. By the end of the call, she was crying. Thank you. You've given me hope. That's what we do for each other. We lift each other up. After I hung up, I sat in my office thinking about how far I'd come. From betrayed housewife to business owner to mentor to someone I'd never even met. My son knocked on the door. Mom, there's someone here to see you. Who? She says her name is Amelia, says she's Mark's girlfriend? My stomach dropped. What fresh hell was this? I walked out to the waiting area. A young woman stood there, mid-20s, blonde, nervous. Ms. Brooks, I'm Amelia. I'm I was Mark's girlfriend. Was? I broke up with him last week, and I needed to talk to you. This day was getting stranger by the minute. We sat in my office, and Amelia looked at her hands. Mark talked about you. A lot. He'd say things like, my ex-wife couldn't handle my ambition, or she wasn't supportive of my career. But then I saw that news story about you, and I realized he'd been lying about everything. What made you realize that? Because he said the same things about me, that I was holding him back, that I didn't understand his vision. And I started thinking, if he lied about you, he's probably lying about me too. Smart woman. I looked you up, read about your business, saw your reviews. You've built something real, something lasting. And Mark, he's on his third job in 5 years, always getting fired for creative differences, which I now realize means he's difficult to work with. Why are you telling me this? Because I wanted you to know that you were right. About him, about leaving, about building your own life. And I wanted to thank you. Thank me? Your story on the news gave me the courage to leave. If you could rebuild after betrayal, so could I. I looked at this young woman, someone who'd been with my ex-husband, who I should probably resent, and I felt something unexpected. Empathy. Amelia, you're going to be fine. You're young. You're smart. You figured out the truth before wasting too many years on him. That's wisdom. I hope so. What are you going to do now? I'm moving back home to Georgia, going to finish my degree, maybe open my own business someday. Something small, but mine. That's perfect. And if you ever need advice, business advice, life advice, whatever, you have my number now. She smiled, genuine and warm. Thank you, Ms. Brooks. After she left, I sat back in my chair and laughed. Mark's current girlfriend had just come to me for life advice. The universe had a sense of humor. That night, my son and I celebrated, not because of Amelia's visit. That was just amusing, but because we'd hit a milestone. The second shop had been open for exactly 1 year and was exceeding all projections. Mom, you did it. You really did it. We did it, kiddo. You've been supporting me this whole time. You're like a superhero. I'm just someone who refused to quit. Same thing. As we ate cake and talked about the future, I realized something important. Mark hadn't destroyed me. He'd freed me. If he'd been a good husband, I'd still be in that modest house, supporting his mediocre career, shrinking myself to make him feel big. But because he betrayed me, I had to rebuild. And in rebuilding, I discovered who I actually was. Someone strong, someone capable, someone who didn't need a man to validate her worth. The best revenge isn't destruction, it's evolution. A year after the news story aired, I got an invitation that made me laugh out loud. The Greater Florida Small Business Association invites you to speak at our annual conference. Topic: Building Success from Adversity. Me, a speaker, at a business conference. I almost declined. Public speaking wasn't really my thing. But then I thought about Jennifer, the woman who'd called after seeing my story, and Amelia, who'd found the courage to leave because of what I'd shared. Maybe I had something worth saying. I accepted. The conference was in Orlando at a hotel conference center. 200 small business owners from across the state. I was scheduled to speak on the second day, right after lunch. I prepared for weeks, wrote notes, practiced my timing, even bought a new outfit. Nothing fancy, but professional. The morning of my speech, I was nervous. My son texted me, "You're going to kill it, Mom. Just tell them the truth." So that's what I did. I walked onto that stage, stood behind the podium, looked at 200 faces, and told them my story, not the sanitized version, the real one. My husband had an affair with my sister. They destroyed my marriage and my family. I was left with nothing but a son to raise and a determination to never be that powerless again. You could hear a pin drop in that room. I told them about going back to school, about selling my wedding ring, about the fear and the doubt and the nights I was so exhausted I could barely stand. But I also want to talk about what I learned, about integrity, about building something that lasts, about the difference between looking successful and actually being successful. I talked about pricing honestly, about standing behind your work, about treating people with respect regardless of their income or status. My ex-husband came into my shop a year ago. His car was broken. He needed my help. And I could have made him pay, emotionally, financially, in every way. But I didn't. Because revenge isn't about hurting someone. It's about becoming so successful that they can't hurt you anymore. When I finished, the room erupted in applause. People stood up. Some were crying. Afterward, the line of people wanting to talk to me stretched across the room. Business owners sharing their own stories of adversity, women who'd left bad situations, men who'd rebuilt after failure. One woman grabbed my hand and wouldn't let go. "You've given me hope. My husband left me last month for someone younger, took everything, and I've been sitting in my apartment wondering how I'll survive. But if you can build 2 successful businesses from nothing, I can figure this out." "You can," I told her. "You absolutely can." That evening, driving home, I called my son. "How'd it go, Mom?" "Better than I expected." People really connected with the story. "That's because it's real. You didn't sugarcoat anything." "No, I didn't. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of us. We did this together." A week later, I got an email from the conference organizers. They'd received dozens of requests for my contact information from people who wanted to hear more, wanted advice, wanted to connect. They asked if I'd be interested in doing more speaking engagements. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds before saying yes. Over the next year, I spoke at 6 more conferences, women's business groups, automotive industry events, community college graduation ceremonies. Each time, I told the same story, and each time, people responded. But the most meaningful speaking engagement came from an unexpected source: a prison. The warden of a women's correctional facility contacted me. "Ms. Brooks, many of our inmates are preparing for release. They're terrified. They don't have skills, don't have support, don't have hope. Would you be willing to speak to them about rebuilding your life?" I'd never considered prison work, but the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. These women were facing the same challenges I'd faced, starting over with nothing, rebuilding from ground zero, overcoming a past that wanted to define them. I accepted. The prison was 60 miles away. I drove through security checkpoints, through gates that clanged shut behind me, into a world I'd never experienced. 50 women sat in the common room, ranging from early 20s to late 60s. Some looked hopeful. Some looked defeated. All looked suspicious of why I was there. I stood in front of them and started with the truth. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a social worker. I'm just someone who had to rebuild her life from nothing. And I think we have more in common than you might expect. I told them my story, the betrayal, the divorce, the fear, the determination. I know what it's like to feel like society has decided who you are, to feel like your past defines your future, to feel like you'll never be more than what happened to you. One woman in the back row raised her hand. But you had options. We don't. We have records. Nobody will hire us. You're right. Your path is harder, but not impossible. I know business owners who specifically hire people with records because they value second chances. I'm one of them. That got their attention. I hire people based on their willingness to work hard and learn. I've hired former addicts. I've hired people with criminal records. I've hired single mothers with no experience because I know what it's like to need someone to take a chance on you. Another woman spoke up. What if we don't have any skills? Then you learn them. I didn't know anything about cars when I started. I learned. You can too. We talked for 2 hours about specific trades they could learn, about programs that would help, about the reality that rebuilding is hard, but not impossible. At the end, a woman in her 40s came up to me. My name is Diane. I'm getting out in 3 months. I've been in here for 6 years, and I'm terrified. What were you before? A bookkeeper, but my crime was embezzlement. Nobody's going to hire me to handle money ever again. Can you do other things? Physical work? I grew up on a farm. I can fix most things. Then come see me when you get out. I might have a job for you. She looked at me like I'd offered her $1 million. Really? Really. You made a mistake. You paid for it. That doesn't mean you should pay forever. 3 months later, Diane showed up at my shop, nervous, hopeful, ready to work. I hired her as a shop assistant. She was amazing, organized, hardworking, grateful for the opportunity. Within 6 months, she was managing my parts inventory. Within a year, she was helping with bookkeeping, under close supervision, but still, she'd earned the trust. "Thank you for giving me a chance," she said one day. "Thank you for taking it. Not everyone does." My life had become something I never expected. I wasn't just running a business. I was building a community, a place where second chances were possible, where people could rebuild, just like I had. One evening, I was closing up the shop when a familiar car pulled into the parking lot, Mark's Mercedes. He got out, and I braced for whatever this was. Ms. Brooks, I hope it's okay that I stopped by. Is your car broken again? No, it's running perfectly. Best it's ever run, actually. Then why are you here? I saw you speak at the business conference in Orlando. I was there for my company, and I saw you on the schedule. I almost didn't go to your session, but I did. And I heard your story, our story, and I realized something. I destroyed the best thing in my life, not just the marriage, you, the person you were. And then I watched you become someone even better, someone I could never be. Mark, I'm not here for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm here because I needed you to know that I see what I did. I own it. And if I could go back and make different choices, I would. It was almost the same speech Rachel had given me years ago, word for word, practically. Do you all get together and rehearse this apology? I asked. He looked confused. What? Never mind. Mark, I appreciate you coming here, but I don't need your apology. I don't need your acknowledgement. I don't need anything from you. I know. That's what makes this so much worse. You don't need me at all. You never did, apparently. I did once. I needed a partner. I needed respect. I needed honesty. You gave me none of those things. I know. So now we both know. Was there anything else? He stood there for a moment, and I saw something I'd never seen before. Mark looked small. Not physically. He was still the same height, same build, but his presence had shrunk. His arrogance was gone. His confidence was gone. He looked like a man who'd finally realized what he'd lost. "No, nothing else. I'm glad you're happy." "I am, finally." He got in his car and drove away, and this time, I knew it was the last time I'd ever see him. Because I'd finally, completely moved on. He was just a person now, someone I used to know, someone who'd hurt me once, but couldn't anymore. I locked up the shop, drove home, and found my son doing homework at the kitchen table. "Hey, Mom, how was your day?" "Interesting. Your dad stopped by the shop." He looked up sharply. "What did he want?" "To apologize, I think, or maybe just to see if I'd forgive him." "Did you?" "No, but I realized I don't need to. Forgiveness is for people who are still in your life. He's not." My son nodded. "Good. He doesn't deserve you. He never did." "No, but I deserved me, and that's what matters." We made dinner together, tacos, his favorite. We talked about his day, his friends, his plans for college. And somewhere in another part of town, Mark was probably sitting in his apartment wondering what might have been. But I wasn't wondering. I knew exactly what was. Success, happiness, peace. And that was more than enough. 5 years after Mark walked into my shop, Sunshine State Auto had grown beyond anything I'd imagined. 3 locations now, 28 employees, a reputation that extended across the entire state. But more importantly, we'd become known for something else: second chances. My staff included former inmates, recovering addicts, single mothers who'd never held a professional job, immigrants still learning English, people that other businesses overlooked or dismissed. And they were the best team I'd ever worked with. Carlos had been with me from almost the beginning. He was now my VP of Operations, managing all 3 locations. Diane, the former prisoner who'd come to me terrified and hopeful, was now my Chief Financial Officer. She'd gone back to school, earned new certifications, proven herself over and over. And my son? He was 19 now, studying business management in college. He worked at the shop during summers, learning every aspect of the operation. "Mom, you've built something really special here," he said one day. "It's not just a business, it's a movement." That's a bit dramatic. No, seriously. I was talking to some people in my business ethics class about your hiring practices, about how you give people opportunities when no one else will. My professor wants to do a case study on the company. Tell your professor I'm too busy actually running the business to talk about running the business. He laughed. You know you love this. He was right. I did. But success brought its own complications. A large automotive chain had been trying to buy me out for 2 years. Their latest offer was substantial, enough to retire comfortably, set up my son for life, never work again. The CEO called me personally. "Ms. Brooks, this is our final offer. $8 million for all 3 locations, equipment, customer lists, and the Sunshine State Auto brand. You'd stay on as a consultant for 2 years. After that, you're free to do whatever you want." $8 million. I thought about what I could do with that money, the security it would bring, the opportunities. I also thought about what would happen to my employees, my team of second chancers who'd finally found stability. Would the new owners keep them? Or would they clean house and bring in their own people? Can I ask what would happen to my staff? We'd evaluate everyone on a case-by-case basis, keep the best performers. Define best performers: the most experienced, most productive, most reliable, which meant Diane and several others with checkered pasts wouldn't make the cut. They'd be back to square one, looking for work with records and gaps in their employment history. "I appreciate the offer," I said, "but I'm not interested." "Ms. Brooks, this is a very generous offer. You could retire at 53. "I don't want to retire. I want to run my business, and I want to do it my way." "May I ask why? What are we missing?" "You're not missing anything. You're offering exactly what your shareholders want: a profitable acquisition. But I didn't build this company to maximize shareholder value. I built it to provide good jobs and second chances. Your case-by-case evaluation would destroy that. That's very idealistic. No, it's very intentional. Thank you for the offer, but my company isn't for sale. After I hung up, Carlos knocked on my door. Was that the chain again? Yeah. What did you tell them? No. He grinned. Good. We'd all quit if you sold anyway. Really? Really. This place isn't just a job for most of us. It's proof that we're more than our mistakes. You sell to some corporate entity that only cares about profit margins, and that's gone. That conversation reinforced what I already knew. Some things are more valuable than money, but the universe has a way of testing your convictions. 2 months later, I got a diagnosis I wasn't expecting. Breast cancer. Stage 2. Treatable, but serious. I sat in the oncologist's office, listening to words like chemotherapy and radiation and 5-year survival rates, and all I could think was, I don't have time for this. I had businesses to run, employees depending on me, a son still in college. How long will treatment take? I asked. 6 months of chemotherapy, then 6 weeks of radiation. You'll need to rest, avoid stress, limit physical activity. I can't do that. I have a business to run. The doctor looked at me over her glasses. Ms. Brooks, if you don't treat this, you might not have a business to run, or a life to live. She was right, of course. I told Carlos and Diane first. They were my leadership team. They deserved to know. I'll need to step back for a while. Can you two handle operations? Are you kidding? Carlos said. We've been handling operations for years. You just refuse to admit it. This is different. I won't be here to make final decisions. Then we'll make them, Diane said. You taught us how. Trust us. I did trust them, but letting go was harder than I expected. The first chemotherapy session was brutal. They hooked me up to an IV, pumped poison into my veins to kill the cancer, and sent me home to feel like death for 3 days. My son came home from college to take care of me. Mom, you don't have to be tough all the time. Yes, I do. No, you don't. You're allowed to be scared. You're allowed to need help. I looked at my 19-year-old son, this person I'd raised alone, protected, provided for, and I broke down. I'm terrified. What if this doesn't work? What if I don't get to see you graduate? What if everything I built falls apart? He held me while I cried. Mom, you survived Dad. You survived starting over with nothing. You survived every challenge that came your way. You'll survive this too. And if you don't, which you will, but if you don't, you've already built something that lasts. The business will continue, your employees will be fine, and I'll be okay, because you taught me how to be strong. Those words got me through 6 months of hell. Chemotherapy stole my hair, my energy, my appetite, but it didn't steal my determination. I went to the shop when I could, even if just to sit in my office and review reports. My employees rallied around me in ways that made me cry, which I blamed on the chemo, but we all knew better. They organized schedules so someone could drive me to treatments. They brought meals. They handled everything so I could focus on healing. Diane managed finances flawlessly. Carlos kept operations running smoothly, and my business didn't just survive my absence, it thrived. You built something that doesn't need you, Carlos said one day. That's the mark of a great leader. I'm not sure how I feel about not being needed. You're still needed, just not for the day-to-day stuff. You're needed for the vision, the values, the reminder of why we do what we do. After 6 months of chemotherapy and 6 weeks of radiation, my oncologist gave me news I'd been praying for. The cancer is in remission. Your scans are clear. I cried in the doctor's office, called my son, called my team, celebrated being alive. The experience changed me, made me realize that control is an illusion, that building something sustainable means building something that can survive without you. So I made changes. I promoted Carlos to CEO, gave him full operational authority. I became chairman of the board, setting vision, making strategic decisions, but not managing daily operations. "Are you sure?" Carlos asked. "This is your company." "It was my company. Now it's our company. I'm just making that official." We restructured ownership, created an employee stock option program. Within 5 years, my employees would own 30% of the company. "Why are you doing this?" Diane asked. "Because you've all earned it. Because I don't want to build something that disappears when I'm gone. I want to build something that lasts, something that continues to provide opportunities long after I'm not around." "You're not planning on going anywhere, are you?" "Not if I can help it, but cancer teaches you that plans don't mean much, so I'm planning for every scenario." My son graduated college and joined the company full-time, not as my son, but as an employee who started at the bottom and would work his way up based on merit. "I want to earn my place here," he said, "not inherit it." "You're definitely my son." 10 years after Mark walked into my shop, I attended a business awards ceremony. Sunshine State Auto had been nominated for Small Business of the Year. We didn't win, but sitting in that room, surrounded by successful business owners and community leaders, I realized something. I'd won everything that mattered. I'd survived betrayal, built a business, beat cancer, created opportunities for people society had written off, raised an incredible son, made an impact that extended far beyond profit margins. Mark was somewhere out there, probably still looking for the success that always eluded him. Rachel was somewhere out there, probably still carrying guilt for choices she couldn't undo. And I was here, free, healthy, successful, surrounded by people who believed in the same things I did. The best revenge isn't destruction. It's building something so beautiful, so meaningful, so impactful that your past can't touch it. That's what I'd done, and I'd do it all over again. 15 years after my divorce, I got an invitation to speak at my son's college graduation. Not as a parent, though I was that too, but as the keynote speaker. "They want you to talk about entrepreneurship and resilience," my son told me. "Something about your story inspiring the business school." "This is your graduation. You sure you want your mom giving the speech?" "Mom, you're literally everyone's favorite example in our business ethics classes. Just don't embarrass me." I make no promises. The graduation was outdoors on a beautiful May afternoon. 2,000 graduates, thousands more family members, and me, standing at a podium, looking at all those young faces about to enter the real world. I started with humor. "I'm Olivia Brooks, and yes, that's my son in the third row trying to pretend he doesn't know me." Laughter rippled through the crowd. 15 years ago, I was where some of you are now, facing an uncertain future. My marriage had ended, my life plan had fallen apart. I had no career, no prospects, and no idea what came next. I told them the story. Not all of it. Graduations aren't the place for that. But the important parts. The decision to go back to school. The determination to build something. The values that guided every choice. Here's what I learned. Your value isn't determined by who loves you, who leaves you, or who believes in you. It's determined by what you build, what you contribute, how you treat people when you have nothing to gain from treating them well. I talked about hiring practices, about giving people chances, about measuring success not just in profit, but in impact. Some of you will start businesses. Some will join corporations. Some will follow paths you haven't even imagined yet. But whatever you do, remember this. The person you become is more important than what you achieve. When I finished, the crowd stood. My son was crying, trying to hide it, but crying. And I realized this moment was a gift, not just for me, but for everyone who'd been part of the journey. After the ceremony, people lined up to talk to me. Graduates wanting advice, parents wanting to share their own stories, faculty members thanking me for the speech. But one person stood at the back of the line, waiting patiently. Mark. I almost didn't recognize him. He'd aged significantly. Gray hair, tired eyes, the arrogance completely gone, replaced by something that looked like humility. "I hope it's okay that I came," he said when he finally reached me. "I know I wasn't invited, but I wanted to see our son graduate." "He's my son. You lost the right to claim him when you left." "Fair, but I am proud of him, and I'm proud of you." I don't need your pride, Mark. I know, but I needed to say it anyway. You've built an incredible life, made an impact I could never make. And our son, he's a good man because of you. What do you want, Mark? Absolution? Forgiveness? A gold star for finally acknowledging reality? Nothing. I want nothing from you. I'm dying, Olivia. That stopped me. What? Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. They're giving me 6 months, maybe less. And I realized I had things I needed to say. To you. To our son. Have you talked to him? Not yet. I don't know if he'll want to see me. He won't. You've been absent for 15 years. You don't get to show up now because you're dying and want to feel better about yourself. I'm not trying to feel better. I'm trying to make amends. Some things can't be amended, Mark. Some damage is permanent. You don't get a deathbed reconciliation because you finally feel guilty. He nodded slowly. You're right. I don't know what I thought. You thought dying would make people forget what you did. It doesn't. It just means you won't be around to face the consequences anymore. I deserved that. You deserve a lot more than that. But I'm not going to waste my energy on anger. Not anymore. You're dying? I'm sorry for that. No one deserves cancer. But it doesn't change the past, and it doesn't obligate me to forgive you. Can I ask one thing? What? Tell our son. Tell him I'm sorry. Tell him I was a coward and a fool. Tell him he became a good man despite me, not because of me. Tell him yourself, if you can find the courage. Mark walked away, and I watched him go, smaller somehow, diminished by time and regret and approaching death. My son found me a few minutes later. Was that Dad? Yes. What did he want? I thought about lying, about protecting my son from the pain of his father's mortality. But he was an adult now. He deserved the truth. He wanted to tell you he's proud of you, and he wanted you to know he's dying. My son's face went through several emotions: shock, sadness, anger, finally landing on something like resignation. How long? 6 months, pancreatic cancer. Should I see him? That's your choice. I can't make it for you. What do you think I should do? I think you should do whatever you can live with. If you see him, you might regret it. If you don't see him, you might regret that too. There's no perfect answer. He thought about it for a long time. I'll think about it. A week later, my son came to my house. I saw Dad. How did it go? It was weird. He apologized, told me he was sorry for abandoning us, said he'd made the biggest mistake of his life when he left. How did you feel? I don't know. Part of me wanted to yell at him, tell him how much he hurt us. But he looked so small and sick and defeated, like yelling at him would be kicking someone who's already down. Did you forgive him? I don't know if I can, but I listened. That's something, right? That's everything, actually. You gave him what he needed, your time and attention. You don't owe him forgiveness on top of that. Mark died 3 months later. My son attended the funeral. I didn't. You didn't have to come, my son said afterward. I know. That's why I didn't. Do you think he died with regrets? Everyone dies with regrets. The question is whether you do something about them while you're alive. He waited until he was dying. That's too late. Life continued, the business grew, my son took on more responsibility. I started writing a book about my experiences, not for fame or money, but to help others who might be facing similar situations. And one day, sitting in my office, I realized something profound. I'd stopped thinking about the betrayal, stopped carrying it around like a wound that never healed. It had become just a thing that happened, a chapter in my story, not the defining moment, just one moment among many. That's when I knew I'd truly moved on. Not when I succeeded despite Mark, but when I succeeded and Mark wasn't part of the equation at all. He'd become irrelevant to my story, and that was the ultimate victory. 20 years after my divorce, I wasn't just running a business anymore. I'd become something I never expected, a mentor, a symbol, someone women reached out to when they needed hope. My book, From Broken to Built, had sold surprisingly well. Not bestseller numbers, but enough that people recognized the story. Enough that I got letters and emails weekly. One letter stood out. Dear Ms. Brooks, my name is Sarah. I'm 32. My husband just left me for my best friend. I have 2 kids and no job skills. I've read your book 3 times. Can you tell me how you did it? How you rebuilt? Because right now, I can't imagine surviving this. I called her. We talked for 2 hours. Sarah, the first thing you need to know is that survival isn't a feeling. It's a choice. You choose to get up. You choose to take the next step. You choose to build even when everything in you wants to quit. But I don't know where to start. Start with what you're good at. What do you like to do? I like cooking. I used to dream about opening a catering business, but my husband said it was stupid. Your husband was wrong about a lot of things, apparently. Tell me about this catering idea. We spent months working together. I helped her develop a business plan, connected her with a small business loan officer I knew, introduced her to potential clients. A year later, Sarah's catering business was thriving. She sent me a photo of her first big event, a wedding reception for 200 people. I did it, her text said. I actually did it. That became my second act, not just running my business, but helping others build theirs. I started a mentorship program through Sunshine State Auto. Women who were rebuilding their lives could apply for free business consulting, loan assistance, and mentorship. We helped 20 women in the first year, 40 in the second. By year 5, we'd helped over 200 women start businesses. Not all of them succeeded. Some businesses failed. Some women gave up. But enough succeeded that the program gained national attention. A producer from a morning talk show called. Ms. Brooks, we'd love to have you on the show. Your story is exactly what our audience needs to hear. I did the interview. Told the story again, more polished now, but still honest. The host asked the question everyone always asks. Do you ever regret the years you spent in that marriage? Do you wish you'd left sooner? No, because those years made me who I am. The betrayal taught me strength. The rebuilding taught me capability. The struggle taught me empathy. Would I want to do it again? Absolutely not. But would I erase it if I could? Also no. After the show aired, my inbox exploded. Thousands of messages, women sharing their stories, asking for advice, thanking me for speaking openly. I couldn't respond to everyone, but I tried. One message made me pause. Ms. Brooks, I'm Rachel. I doubt you remember me, but I'm your sister. I saw your interview. I wanted you to know that I think about you every day. I know I destroyed our relationship. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But I'm proud of who you've become. You're everything I wish I'd been. I stared at that message for a long time. 20 years. She'd carried that guilt for 20 years. I could ignore it, delete it, pretend I never saw it, or I could respond. I chose the latter. Rachel, I remember you. I appreciate the message. I don't know if I'll ever be ready to rebuild our relationship, but I can tell you this. Holding on to anger was hurting me more than it was hurting you. So I let it go. Not for you, for me. I hope you found peace. I have. She responded an hour later. Thank you. That's more than I deserve. I have found peace. I work with a domestic violence shelter, helping women leave abusive situations. It's my way of trying to make up for the damage I did. We didn't become sisters again, but we became 2 people who'd hurt each other once and had both moved on. That felt like enough. My son, now 34, had become COO of Sunshine State Auto. He'd earned it through years of hard work, starting from the bottom and learning every role. Mom, I want to expand the mentorship program, make it national, help women across the country, not just locally. That's ambitious. You taught me to think big. I also taught you to think sustainably. How would we fund it? grants, partnerships with women's organizations, maybe some corporate sponsorships. We spent 6 months developing the plan, then launched it, the National Rebuild Initiative, helping women who were rebuilding their lives after divorce, abuse, or other major life disruptions. We partnered with community colleges to offer free training in various trades, worked with banks to create microloans for women starting businesses, built a network of mentors across the country. It was ambitious, maybe too ambitious, but it worked. In the first year, we helped 500 women. By year 3, that number had grown to over 3,000. Women who'd been written off by society. Women who'd believed they had no options. Women who just needed someone to believe in them. Each success story felt personal because I saw myself in every one of them. On my 60th birthday, my employees threw me a surprise party at the shop. All 3 locations showed up. Over 50 people crowded into Bay 1, which we'd cleared of cars for the occasion. Carlos gave a speech. 25 years ago, Olivia opened this shop with 2 employees and a dream. Today, we're a multi-million-dollar company with over 75 employees. But more importantly, we're a family, a community, a place where people get second chances and third chances, and however many chances they need. That's Olivia's legacy. My son presented me with a gift, a framed photo collage, pictures from throughout the years, the tiny original shop, the grand opening of the second location, my team, my mentees, women who'd started businesses with our help. Mom, you changed our lives, all of us. Thank you. I cried. Of course I cried. Later that evening, sitting alone in my office, I thought about the journey, about the woman I'd been 25 years ago, broken, betrayed, terrified, about the woman I'd become, strong, successful, respected, about the choice I'd made to rebuild instead of collapse. That choice had defined everything that came after, and I'd choose it again every time. 25 years after Mark walked into my shop, I stood in the same spot where I'd confronted him. But this time, I wasn't thinking about him. I was thinking about legacy. Sunshine State Auto now had 6 locations across Florida, over 200 employees, an annual revenue of $20 million. But those numbers weren't what mattered most. What mattered was this. We'd helped over 7,000 women rebuild their lives through our mentorship program. We'd provided jobs to over 300 people with criminal records. We'd proven that business success and social impact aren't mutually exclusive. My son, now running the company as CEO while I served as executive chairman, had expanded beyond my original vision. Mom, I want to create a foundation. Use the profits to fund scholarships for women studying trades. Make it permanent. Make it last beyond us. Do it. That's exactly what should happen. The Brooks Foundation launched with an endowment of $5 million, money I'd made from my share of the business, from speaking engagements, from book sales. Our first year, we provided full-ride scholarships to 50 women entering automotive technology, welding, electrical work, plumbing, trades where women were underrepresented but desperately needed. One of those women was a 22-year-old named Maria, single mother, no family support, determined to build a better life. She reminded me of myself at that age, except she had something I hadn't, someone actively helping her succeed. Maria graduated at the top of her class. We hired her at Sunshine State Auto. Within 3 years, she was our top diagnostic technician. "Ms. Brooks," she said one day, "I want to do what you did, start my own shop someday, give opportunities to other women like me." "Then do it, I'll help." And I did, just like Frank had helped me 28 years earlier. The cycle continued. Maria opened her own shop 5 years later, and she implemented the same values: integrity, second chances, community impact. That's when I realized what I'd actually built. Not just a business, not just a mentorship program, but a movement, a philosophy that was replicating itself, spreading, creating change far beyond anything I could do alone. On my 65th birthday, I officially retired from day-to-day operations. Not because I had to. I was healthy, energetic, capable. But because it was time. Time to let the next generation lead. Time to trust that what I'd built would continue without me. Time to step back and watch. My retirement party was at the original shop location. Everyone came. Current employees, former employees, women I'd mentored, people whose lives had been touched by the work we'd done. Diane, now 70, and still our CFO despite my suggestions she retire too, gave a speech. 28 years ago, I walked into this shop fresh out of prison, scared, hopeless, convinced no one would ever trust me again. Olivia hired me anyway, not because she was naive, not because she was charitable, but because she saw potential where everyone else saw a criminal record. That changed my life, and I've watched her change thousands of other lives the same way. My son spoke last. My mom taught me that success isn't about how much you make, it's about how much you give, how many people you help, how big an impact you leave. By that measure, she's the most successful person I know. After the formal speeches ended, people came up one by one to share their stories. Women who'd rebuilt their lives, employees who'd found stability, mentees who'd started businesses. Each story was a thread in a tapestry I hadn't realized I was weaving. Late that evening, after everyone had left, I sat alone in my office, the same office where I'd worked for 28 years, where I'd built spreadsheets and made tough decisions and cried and celebrated. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Ms. Brooks, this is Amelia. I don't know if you remember me. Mark's ex-girlfriend. I remember. I saw the article about your retirement in the Business Journal. I wanted to call and say thank you. Again. It's been over 20 years, Amelia. What are you thanking me for? For showing me that leaving him was possible. For proving that women can rebuild. I did what you did, went back to school, learned a trade, started a business. I own a landscaping company now in Georgia. 20 employees. We just hit $2 million in annual revenue. That's incredible. It's because of you, because you showed me what was possible. And I wanted you to know I'm doing the same thing, hiring women who need chances, paying fair wages, treating people with respect. I'm trying to be the kind of business owner you are. After we hung up, I sat there thinking about ripple effects, about how one person's choices can influence dozens of lives, which influence hundreds, which influence thousands. I'd started with a single shop and a desperate need to survive, and somehow, 28 years later, I'd created something that would outlast me. My final act before fully retiring was to establish a succession plan that ensured the company's values would continue. The board of directors now included 3 former mentees, 2 community activists, and a women's rights attorney. Control of the company would gradually transfer to employees through the stock option program. Within 15 years, Sunshine State Auto would be entirely employee-owned. "You're giving away your fortune," someone said at a board meeting. No, I'm investing it in the people who built it with me. There's a difference. I moved to a smaller house on the beach. Nothing extravagant. I was still a pigeon, not a peacock, but comfortable. A place where I could write, think, and watch the ocean. My son visited every Sunday. We'd walk on the beach and talk about the business, about life, about everything. "Do you ever regret how it started?" he asked one day. "The betrayal? The struggle?" I thought about it honestly. I regret the pain, the years I wasted in that marriage, the relationship I lost with my sister. But I don't regret where it led me. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the catalyst for the best thing you ever do. "That's deep, Mom." "I'm old. I'm allowed to be deep." He laughed. "You're 65. That's not old. Tell that to my knees." 6 months into retirement, I started my second book. Not a memoir this time, but a practical guide. Building Unbroken, a blueprint for women rebuilding their lives. Part business advice, part personal development, part pep talk. I wrote about pricing your services, about hiring with intention, about maintaining integrity when it would be easier to cut corners, about building something that matters. The book was dedicated to every woman who's been told she can't. You can, and here's how. It published a year later. The launch party was at the original Sunshine State Auto location, now preserved as a combination working shop and museum of sorts, showcasing the company's history. Reporters asked me the same questions they always asked. What would you say to your younger self? I'd say, the man who betrays you isn't the end of your story. He's the beginning of your next chapter. Write it well. Do you feel you've gotten revenge on your ex-husband? No, because revenge requires you to keep thinking about someone. I stopped thinking about him years ago. That's not revenge. That's freedom. What's next for you? More writing, more mentoring, more time with my son and maybe, someday, grandchildren, and continuing to help women realize they're capable of more than they think. 3 years into retirement, I got a call from the governor's office. They wanted to give me an award for community impact and women's entrepreneurship. I almost declined. I don't love attention or awards. But my son convinced me. Mom, this isn't about you. It's about the thousands of women who need to see that rebuilding is possible. Accept the award for them. So I did. The ceremony was formal. I wore a dress, still nothing designer, still nothing extravagant, and accepted the award with a short speech. I didn't set out to change the world. I set out to survive. But survival led to building. Building led to helping others. And helping others led to something bigger than I ever imagined. If my story proves anything, it's this. You are not defined by what breaks you. You're defined by what you build afterward. So build something beautiful. Build something that matters. Build something that lasts. Standing ovation, tears, hugs from strangers. And in that moment, I realized I'd done it. Not just rebuilt my life, but created a legacy that would continue long after I was gone. Mark had tried to take everything from me 28 years ago. Instead, he'd freed me to become someone he could never have imagined. Someone strong, someone successful, someone who changed thousands of lives. The best revenge isn't destruction. It's transformation. It's becoming so completely yourself that the person who tried to break you becomes irrelevant to your story. That's what I did, and if I could do it, anyone can. That's the message. That's the legacy. That's the truth. You are not broken beyond repair. You are raw material for something extraordinary. Build it.